Welcome to Inspiration Contagion, where we spread inspiration one story at a time. I am your host, Holly Jean Jackson. Each interview spotlights transformational business leaders, their stories, challenges, and advice for how you too can lead yourself and others through inspiration. Learn how you too can achieve peak performance, build more revenue, and lead the legacy you were meant to lead. Welcome back to Inspiration Contagion. This is episode 82. And this week I have two guests from one company. So a little bit of a different platform today, a little bit of a different show and structure. My first guest I'm going to introduce is Justin Neagle. Justin is the chief storyteller at Spot Migration and co-host of the Building Scale podcast. Justin is a leader who loves seeing companies grow and learn. He strongly believes that the secret recipe, the secret guys, listen, for successful businesses is a culture that values its people and has a meaningful purpose. He has experienced everything from tiny two-person teams to gigantic firms with over 1,200 employees. Regardless of their size, he discovered that the real key to ongoing success is having solid core values and a clear purpose. His big mission right now is to guide over 1,000 companies to find and use their unique core purposes. With that, welcome, Justin.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here, and I swear I'm not going to be as loud as I normally am.
We'll see. Will and I are going to hold you to that, okay?
Please monitor me, please.
Will, CEO of Spot Migration and co-host of that same podcast, is also considered a managed IT department for growing companies that can't afford to be slowed down by IT issues, and we all have faced those issues. Will also sits on the advisory board for The 20, a disruptive business development and strategy co-op for managed IT providers. Will's experience with scalable IT solutions in organizations such as Walgreens, FDIC, and Citadel has allowed him to shape strategy and implement technologies previously not attainable to small and mid-market organizations. With that, welcome, Will.
Thank you. Thanks, Holly, for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have both of you here. We're going to get started on inspiration. So I want to start with Justin. Justin, what makes you an inspirational leader, or what would you say is your secret sauce?
For me, when I think of being an inspirational leader, I think of actually caring about others. I think that this is the secret sauce, like just care. And if you just are a hateful person and you don't care about people, it's really hard to be inspiring, because I do think that the caring of a employee or caring of an individual, anybody, that's how you create inspiration, because they can feel that there's an actual real truth to what you're trying to achieve. And when you think big picture and you're trying to grow, or you're doing a thing that is good, but you wanted to make it great, you got to bring other people in, and you have to do that via inspiration. So for me, it is always about caring. Giving a shit is what we say.
Just care and give a shit. Those are your 2 cents of wisdom from today from Justin. Appreciate that. All right. Next up, Will, what would you say inspiration means to you? How would you define inspiration?
I think pictures are worth 1,000 words. And so I'm going to paint a picture here. When it comes to inspiration, it's the thing that gets you out of bed every day. It's the thing that it's not necessarily short-term motivated, it's long-term motivated, right? It's a way to guide, it's a North Star for anyone, right? And you can have more than one North Star, but the closer you have your North Stars aligned, the easier it is to go towards that thing that you're inspired by, right? And it's a way to see your future self wherever it's going to be, right? There's a piece of yourself that's part of that, I guess, inspiration. So, can't remember who's the guy that says all right.
Matthew McConaughey.
Thank you, Matthew McConaughey. Sorry, I got a 1-year-old at home. I got memory issues right now. Matthew McConaughey, he talks about meeting his future self. Well, I think inspiration is sort of being able to go towards that. Whether or not you achieve it doesn't matter. It's, can you think, towards the future and see yourself in that place? That's, I guess, kind of what inspiration looks like for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to go on top of that, purpose, as I will harp on this all day, every day for the rest of my life. That is that thing. That's that North Star or North Stars, if you're thinking multi-purpose here. But it is the game changer to life, business, legacy, the whole thing. It is having a purpose, having a core purpose. And when you wake up with that ikigai, it is a lot easier to do whatever the hell it is that day, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how Will was sharing, kind of painting that picture and that picture of that future version of yourself, whether or not you actually arrive at that destination. Because we all know it's a very windy, stumbly, difficult path that has surprises left and right with curveballs like 1 year olds at home, etc. And so it's about staying true to that and being able to visualize as you start your day, just heading 1% closer to that future version of yourself and being present in that journey. But you don't know where that North Star is if you don't, like Justin just said, have that purpose, have that intention. And then you're likely saying yes to all the wrong things, which it forces you to say no to the right things, which means you grow exponentially slower. And we don't want that. So I love how Will it was really digging into visualization. For me, that's a game changer. I use it with my clients as a daily tool that they use to start their day. Make sure that they're actually aligned to that North Star. So that was a wonderful picture that you painted.
You're welcome.
And you can see Justin's already getting fired up. So
Oh,
Justin,
I'm
this
I'm
one.
ready to jump around. I'm standing for this podcast. Usually we're on the other side, so it's like this whole being on the guest side is it's exciting for me because I love to talk, and usually I ask a question and then but now I can talk as much as I want, within reason, and it's great. It's wonderful. It's amazing.
If you go too far, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be like, cut, cut, cut. I'm just kidding. All
X
right.
out of here. Get out of here.
So, with that, Justin, how do you define peak performance and how did you arrive at your definition for that?
So peak performance is interesting. I think that there's a lot of times where you can hear lots of people give different advice of like you should wake up early, you should drink water, you should breathe, you should do all, like lots of different things. And not to say that these are bad, right? Like these are good things, but there are different levels of that as you go down your journey because you start with one thing, like hey, like I just want to wake up early. Like let's start here. Like my peak performance, let's start with that, get that going for a while, and then eventually get to the point of like, well, now I have a full 90-minute morning routine that I pop off every day that sets me up for that peak performance. That is being focused. I think a lot of times, especially entrepreneurs, business owners, it is very like I got to do everything and everything's on fire all the time, and then we get away from that purpose, the thing that's really driving us. And that's where when you have more focus and you have more of that like stillness in your mind, which I achieve based on like having a morning routine and having a night routine. But however that's achieved, that's how you get to it. You have to have a little bit more stillness in your brain to get to that place where you can then actually execute on the things that are driving you in your purpose.
Yeah, and I'm actually curious. I know you both have little ones at home, but since Will mentioned that was very fresh for him and has a little one climbing stairs, how do you also optimize that focus when things shift and you have little ones at home for folks that are listening and have a family to balance on top of their growing business?
Uh,
You go? Want me to go? I
you
don't.
know
I
what?
won't
Because
stop
this,
talking. So
so for me, it was rebuilding routine. I also moved right before having a 1 year old. So rebuilding routine, definitely some version of exercise is also awareness, creating awareness around what actually, like, for example, in the morning, for me, having a super noisy morning, kind of off putting. And so routine is part of it, but people take for granted what routine means. For me, routine is even things like waking up at exactly the same time. It is not taking coffee right away. It's drinking like a glass of water. It is going downstairs, not watching, not even looking at my phone, for example, right? Consciously being very conscious about what I'm doing and not doing. Okay. Because it's very easy to go into a routine that turns into sort of bad habits, and doesn't actually help, the mental refresh cycle, and uh, the awareness of like what what happened the day before, prepping actually the day before to make sure that the day starts out more successfully, right? Creating quote unquote more luck, if you will, for the day. These are all aspects. I could go, this is a topic that I love talking about. I could literally talk about this for hours. So I'm going to stop there.
No, I love that. So, great reminder of when we're setting up our routines, it's equally important for the things we are not doing. It's so easy to get lost in a tangent and not be set up for success for your day because you open your email and there's a fire you need to put out. We all know. I think Justin said there's fires we're putting out constantly. So, figuring out your boundaries and the things you're not going to do so that you can actually get yourself set up for success is equally important. And people come here on the show all the time and share, oh, here's all the things that I do. But we also forget there's a lot of things that are difficult habits for people to break. And the water thing was such a good reminder. I was like, oh, I definitely need to drink water before I have coffee, but that's gonna take some time. So stay tuned. I'll let you know when that one's broken. So speaking of challenges, I want to go back to Justin. What are some of the challenges and obstacles that you guys faced along your journey to peak performance with spot migration?
How much time do we have? No, but a few big things that really were aha moments for us is, right person, right seat. So like when you're a smaller business, you get a core team of people that are just kind of like trying to make everything better. That's not being effective. Like you need to get people that, hey, you're really good at this thing, and I need to just do this thing, even though I need help over here. Like we need to balance the, hey, like you being in this seat and overseeing this. And even, again, small businesses, there's still multiple hats, but it is removing the hats that just don't make sense to add a pair of hands to when it's I'll call it dumb hands, right? It's like I'm not good at this thing. I'm here because I want to be helpful, and that doesn't make any sense in comparison to like, hey, if you actually just focused your time on this other thing, the leverage is so much higher. Like it's just way better. And then, if it's sales or if it's marketing or if it's operations or if it's technical, whatever it is, do the thing you're good at or have everybody doing those things. There's some crossover when you're small, but like most of your day needs to be in those things because that's how you can actually scale. Because otherwise it's just we're putting out a fire here, putting out a fire there. I'm taking your time, which is actually not even useful because you don't really know what the hell you're doing. And then you're just like, I'm here to help, but like I don't understand what updating this computer software means. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't actually make sense. So once you get out of the way and you start, and we are an EOS company, so working on the business, and you can like take a step back and say, oh, like, hey, you do this, like go do this thing and attack it. Even if I'm like, drowned it a little bit over here, if we can get that operating efficiently in that part of the business, that will then help me be able to put more revenue to this part, which will then help that side. It's the, all ships rise on something. There's a analogy there that I butcher every time, but the current, whatever it is. But the point is you got to focus on the things you're good at and let others focus on the things they're good at. And that's how you can get everybody to more of a peak performance.
Yeah. It's interesting when you said the dumb hands comment. First of all, that just makes me giggle. But also, what it makes me think of is I like to say that similar to what you're saying, where you want to align people to what their superpower skill
Oh, yeah.
is in business, right? And since you said dumb hands, for some reason, Harry Potter came to mind. And so I'm thinking like Hermione's really good at certain things, Ron's really good at certain things, and Harry's, but they know where their sweet spot is. And that's what makes them such a great team.
Yep.
Instead of dumb hands, they have their areas of specialization where their magic really comes out literally in Harry Potter, right?
Yes.
But it's the same premise. If you take that storyline and you look at your culture and your clients and your customers and your employee base in particular, and you align what they're magically talented at, they have that gift in, and you align that to having them do that versus just putting out a fire because you need hands on deck for that thing, you're going to be so much more successful, and you're going to have higher employee retention because you're actually paying attention to what they love to do because they're good at it. And that's where I see businesses really thrive and soar, is when they get that. And not a lot of people get that. So that's really important and crucial. I'm glad you guys are doing that.
I'm going to expand upon it for just a quick second because
Yeah.
we made a humongous change. I mean, that about 2 years ago, and had to have buy-in from the entire management team to do this. Okay. And there's a joke that came out of it. Um, I got fired from operations. That's why I'm CEO. Okay. Um, but the reality is, never having really done sales before, I went from an operations role to a sales role and learned it, which I don't know how many people do, but and never having done sales in my life. Okay. And about a year in, started having real success with it because looking at personality, aligning personality, and really deep diving personality. This is that awareness factor. Um, is so you talk about businesses having not a lot of people do this. I think it comes down to awareness and really introspection, having the time to really introspect. It is the reason why we got to where we are today and why we're hockey sticking right now.
Hmm.
I like that hockey sticking. Yeah, and the problem too is that I think a lot of business owners, because they're so busy putting out fires, especially before they hit, year 5 where things are more stable, they don't take the time to really get to know their employees and their contractors and what they're actually really good at and passionate about. And that's a huge mistake. I mean, I just did an interview for a new assistant on my team. One of the first questions I asked is, what do you love to do? Like, what do you think are your superpowers? And the reason I ask that is I want to make sure there's a fit for what I need for a skill set, but also that I make sure I boost this person up if they are on my team and give them a lot of that so that they're passionate and excited, not just the day-to-day administrative things, but I want them to buy into this and I want them to feel like they're growing and that they're able to use those skills that they're super passionate about. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to, this is kind of similar, along similar lines. I know you guys were excited to share about how you're using EOS to grow. And I want to see if we can tie that into this next question of, how do you create a culture of peak performance in your company? And I want to go to Will for this one to start. And maybe how have you used EOS to create that culture of peak performance?
Uh, in a word, accountability, I think is part of it. The other part is simplifying the roles, distilling down the roles, and the accountability is distilling down to a number, and it's the right numbers. Like even sometimes we realize that we weren't measuring the right numbers to make the right decisions. So peak performance is a way to be able to focus uh, on the right things. And it took a while to, like, we were saying very similar things for quite a while. I would say probably about 4 years we were saying similar things, but there were still question marks that were happening, and it wasn't getting the right results. And pandemic be damned. Um, I think that the culmination of the work that we did do, along with measuring the right things, and even coming down to right people, right seats, etc., that eventually culminated into having a working engine. Otherwise, you're only as fast as your sort of slowest or weakest link, and that's exactly what was happening. Uh, Bottlenecks. For the longest time, for the first 5-6 years of the company, give or take, I think it was like for the first 5 years of the company, we realized that I was the bottleneck of like 11 major processes in the company, like major processes, right? And like every quarter, we would take away like one of those major processes. One of the few of the major processes took like literally a couple of years to pull off of me, right? So finally, not really in operations anymore. God, thank God.
Thank God is right. I say that in the nicest way, but it is a little bit of letting go in the vine, right? That's the other part of this. Like you need, and that's an EOS term. Like, hey, like you gotta trust your people, and when you got good people and you put them in the right seats and they follow your core values and they believe in your purpose, like they believe in your vision, like that's when that magic can happen. Their superpowers can show, and top leadership can then release the vine and say, hey, I believe that you're going to do the thing, which builds an unbelievable culture. Like that's in when you build a culture like that, you're thinking about each other's peak performance, and that is like the accelerator. Because if I'm like, when I think of like Casey or I think of Kasha and I think like, oh, like how can I help them? They're struggling with a thing, and it has nothing to do with spot. It's just like, hey, like I got the baby at home is doing X, and it's like, oh, how can I think through and try to help that happen, where it then becomes like, oh wow, because it's a team, right? It's somebody that actually cares about you, and when you build a culture like that, that's where the peak performance just starts coming natural, because we're all thinking about each other in a caring way.
There's one other piece I forgot to add. Transparency and vulnerability is the only way that we could have gotten to where we got to. And this part is really hard, because yet it's a way to build trust. I believe that transparency ultimately, and with some of that vulnerability, is the reason why sort of leapfrog to the next level. Talking about, things like mental health issues, talking about like really work-life balance. What is that, right? Talking about, and like noticing each other when they're overworked and going, hey, you need to take a vacation. We had to force someone on our staff to take a vacation, like literally force them, because we saw it, they didn't even see it. They thanked us afterwards, but they would have also burned out, right? So things like burnout during the pandemic was like a thing that we talked about multiple times, and why the burnout was happening, and really looking for, even at outside help. Like, we couldn't do everything, so we looked at outside help in multiple different aspects of our business to be able to perform better, right?
Yeah.
And so EOS terminology, delegate and elevate, we went through that to figure out what we'll call zones of genius are, and what are the things that we hate or dislike doing, even if we're good at it.
Yeah. And for those of you who are not familiar with EOS, Entrepreneurship Operating Systems, it's just basically another format you can look at, another tool or strategy to put in your toolkit for working on the business, not just in the business. But what I love about what you both shared, first of all, you can see Justin and Will know each other well, and they walk the talk of what they're sharing with transparency and vulnerability and seeing each other's blind spots and knowing each other well and caring. And I think what really helps create amazing cultures is when you have almost like that family element where they're saying, if one of their employees' kids is struggling, sharing feedback on that, because ultimately we want to treat the whole person. And if your team knows that you're invested in them as a person, they're going to show up in a very different way. And that creates a very special culture that keeps employees part of that team because they feel seen, heard, and supported. And that's ultimately what everybody's looking for. So that's really cool that you guys are doing that at Spot Migration, and even bringing in people to help you see your blind spots, because we all have them. And I'm glad that you were able to remove those bottlenecks, even though they sounded painful, right? But that is part of the process. Okay, I want to ask you next, how have you guys optimized your customer experience? We talked about the employee culture. What have you done to optimize the customer experience? And I'll let either one of you jump. Oh, Justin's like,
Justin,
please.
oh, this is
Okay. So we just went through a full revamp of like, hey, we need to be better. This is a place that like we have not been the best that we possibly could be, so we need to be better because that's the right thing to do, and it's the business smart thing to do. So we actually, on our podcast, we had Brittany Hodak, who wrote a book called Creating Superfans. She sent us her book. She's amazing. She's wonderful. Read through this thing, changed my life. Totally changed everything. I'm like, we have to uproot all of our processes. It's all different. We're changing everything we do when it comes to client delivery, client experience and service and all these things. So we created the wheel of client satisfaction, which is effectively actively listening, be human, do the work, over communicate, and then exceed expectations. And that's the 5. So we continuously do this and run through it, because what we learned is like people want that human reaction or interaction, right? They want, like, we're a tech company. We're like the farthest thing from like humans. Like, we're practically robots over here. So like for us to like really be like, hey, no, like we're people, like we're totally just people. We weren't doing that enough. We're explaining problems and solving problems, but we weren't making that connection. And then we realized, hey, like we know a lot of stuff, but the client doesn't know a lot about infrastructures and cloud and all these different things. And it was like, so we need to over communicate. Like we need to make it simple, but we need to over communicate with them because it's a subject they don't understand. And then like, don't ever assume that like we know best because we know best because we're engineers. Like, no, like we got to do the work. Every client, every experience, every ticket has got to be thought through the same work that goes into it. You got to always do that work and then exceed expectations, because if we can be doing things that other people aren't doing, other companies aren't doing, that's the place where it's like, yeah, you got to use spot migration. You're a construction company and you need an IT company. We're it. Spot migration is it, because they do all these things. They make us feel important because they are important. So we just revamped all this stuff this year. It's actually our theme of the year. So we have a theme every year. Last year was relationships. We did better with relationships, which was amazing. And this year it's client experience. So everything we do in our level 10 each week, we go through, okay, what is this issue actually solving client experience? Like, are we looking for this? So every week we're reminded of it. Bam, bam, bam. Can we do more? What's better? What can we do better? So it's keep asking, like, hey, we want to go from good to great. We don't want to just be hey, well, this is good enough. It's like, no. We want to be great, because that's the only way that we're going to get to peak performance.
Absolutely. I love talking about employee experience, because this is where so many people leave so much money on the table, and they lack in peak performance, because we all know you make that big purchase and you have buyer's remorse. It's just a natural part of the human experience. So the people that are smart, that are really considering the customer experience, they have things to accommodate for that. They send a gift to make them raving fans. They communicate. They say, hey, I know where you are right now. Here's a tool that I have. Here's a resource that I have, so that we have your best intentions in mind, and we're with you every step of the way. We're here to partner with you constantly. And I love the over exceeding their expectations and not assuming anything. I can't tell you how many times people assume that their customer is happy. They assume that they don't need to do frequent check-ins. They assume, and I think it's because they're so obsessed with leads and new sales conversions, that they forget their existing customers are your potential best source of revenue, because they're going to give you testimonials, referrals, and there might even be collaboration partners, for all you know, if they're business owners. So if you guys are listening right now, I love this wheel of client satisfaction. Listen, be human, do the work, communicate, exceed expectations. Create your own wheel of satisfaction for your clients. I guarantee you're going to exponentially grow your revenue and your performance. Your employees will be more excited because they'll have clear direction on what to focus on, and your clients are going to just love you. You're going to get amazing testimonials and referrals and raving fans, which I'm obsessed with. Like, I love working on customer and employee experiences, but in particular customers. All right, we're going to pivot. We're going to talk about money. You guys ready to talk about money?
Always.
For sure.
I love the green. That's why I wear this shirt.
I love it. I love it. And for those of you who are listening, you have got to watch the YouTube version of this, because Justin is hilarious.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just here being me.
He's being him, but he's fun.
There may or may not be a video out there of a pie eating contest, and then shortly afterwards, someone rocking the mic with like pie all over his face.
Oh man, you guys will have to after the show, you'll have to reach out to them and have this pie video emailed to you. So make sure that you look at the show notes to reach out to them, because that would be comical. All right, to the money. When have you left money on the table through spot migration, and what did you do to fix it?
Oh, oh boy. Let's see. I don't know where to start. So this is the entrepreneurial tax that I talk about often. This is the nice way of calling it the stupid tax, but so let's talk about this a little bit. Ad spend, like, it has been the thing that has helped us to grow, but has also been the thing that has hurt a lot. Even in the first 3 years, spending $80,000 a year in just ad spend and making only $10,000 in revenue in the first year. That's just downhill, right? What about, or talking to clients, and then during agreement, close to when an agreement is supposed to essentially end and maybe cycle over, screw some things up and not renew with the client. Having to create a process around renewals, right? I mean, even employees and the right fit, right person, right seat, essentially right culture fit. I'm telling you, we definitely lost clients because of that. There's 1,001 ways to lose clients. There's 1,001 ways to leave money on the table. Very hard, to kind of keep clients happy, etc. What we do, the work is a service. The work product is an emotion, and people are unpredictable. So, uh, anyone that's in the service-based industry, this is might as we're like part-time psychologists. Like, we have to like figure out like what the hell people are thinking on both sides of the table. People are throwing tantrums, right? And then how do you navigate these very, very shaky waters, right? So leaving money on the table, okay, there are times when leaving money on the table is okay because it's a long-term view. Short term, make a little more money but then long term lose trust. Not okay, right? That's a place that we learn very quickly, and it's something that I think we're always looking at the long-term view. So if there's something that's short-term, we're always going, well, is this going to lead to client satisfaction? Is this going to lead towards keeping the client happy, et cetera, et cetera? So sometimes it's okay to do that, because more money is to be made, over a longer period of time. So I've got probably another 1,000 or so examples, but I'm not going to go through all of them here.
Yeah, so those are really great examples. And first of all, I appreciate you being honest. I've had some folks on here that say they've never left money on the table, and I'm like, really, really? Okay, interesting.
Oh my God! Those not to call out any particular person, but like those people that say they've never left money on the table have the wrong mindset. I guarantee it's more of a scarcity mindset, 1,000%, no abundance thinking, because everybody can have more. Like there's like everybody has the room to have more, but like if you think that you've never left money on the table, you're blind to the reality of business.
Yeah. Well, and I like how we'll introduce this, the entrepreneur tax or the dumb tax, right? The reality is, if we're real here, right, about what it is to really lead a business, to be an entrepreneur, to scale to that next level, the reality is you're going to make mistakes. You are going to leave money on the table. But there are ways to leave less money on the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
So getting smart on your lead generation system, dialing in your sales process so that you're, having the highest possible conversion rate with the right prospects. Again, like he was sharing earlier, thinking long term is very smart. You don't want to take clients that are going to be nightmares, headaches, not a fit for your company, not a fit for the vision or mission. And then getting that really amazing customer experience dialed in, building that employee culture that thrives and is aligned, and then being obsessed with ongoing business excellence. These are the ways you plug those profit leaks as much as possible. But you're still human. All of you listening, you're not perfect. You're all going to leave money on the table. You're all going to have blind spots you can't see. That's why they're blind spots. I do this. I still have people I work with to show me my blind spots. So if you're thinking like, oh, I'm crushing this, I'm not leaving money on the table, you're deluded. And we talked about how we're part-time psychologists. I'd say it's a huge part of your job when you're in sales is being a psychologist and going into the emotions of everything, the background of everything. I can't tell you how many times I have calls that's purely about emotion and meeting them where they are and allowing them to be seen and heard, because that's what humanity is all about. So I applaud you for sharing that. And it sounds like for some of these, you're fixing by dialing in the customer experience. Are there a couple
Mm-hmm.
other things you guys are doing and putting in place to plug some of these profit leaks?
One big place, and you mentioned it, having a sales process. This was a thing that we as we said, we had lead gen in regards to like pushing out Google ads, like having the ad spend, and like in our industry, like that's a thing that we do pretty well. We get attention pretty well, but there was definitively like, well, we got it, and if you're not a perfect situation, this just falls apart. Like this just completely crumbles, and it was because we had no process. Like we just did not have the ability to like, oh yeah, like we need to close 20, 25, 30, 35%. Like, cause if you do that, like it changes the whole thing. So it was a long, probably 18-month, 2 year journey of like, all right, how do we really dial this in, and like making massive changes and bringing in consultants and like doing like the thing that was like, we need to figure this out because this is going to be the gas for all the other things we're trying to do. If we're all running around with our heads chopped off, that's never going to grow. Like, we're never going to grow the thing. But like, if we start putting in processes, and sales being one of them, and we have at this point, because of EOS, like we have so many processes that now are in place that have allowed us to stop those leakages. Same thing on the operations side. Like, how do we execute better on the client experience? Just as in experience, how do we execute better on just a technical project? How do we execute better on just finance? Like, how do we build that? Right, everything you do can be broken down into processes, and once you start building these processes, it's a lot easier to scale because you're not having to recreate the wheel every interaction.
Yes, absolutely. Process, process, process. Be obsessed with where your biggest profit leak area is and invest the time and resources to fix it. Bring in outside experts because you cannot see your blind spots and you're going to leak more money if you don't. So, very, very sage wisdom. Okay, my last question on revenue before we shift to our wrapping it up. What is the next shiny object you guys want to turn into new revenue stream? I know, giggling. It's hard to dial it into one or two, but that's the challenge today.
If that question's for Will, he loves shiny objects. Like, this is a syndrome. He's a total visionary. So, Will, take it away.
One part is more development. The other one is AI. And sorry, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm going to break rules here. Another one is like workflow process automation for specific types of companies. There's a value proposition there in taking, daily tasks that take minutes, whatever, multiple clicks, and then change it into no clicks at all, taking no time at all, because each one of those is a distraction. Each distraction, right? If you understand a little bit about human psychology, if you're in the flow of things and then you get distracted, it's 20 minutes to really get back into the flow of things. Well, imagine it's that many less distractions, right? So AI is, just taking huge amounts of data or just a certain perspective and being able to just just create leverage. So definitely, technology enablement, and then dashboards and just being able to see. So it's hard to improve what you don't measure. It's a little Peter Drucker there. So creating something like that specific for the industries. We understand some of the software, partnering up with certain vendors that are specific to the industry, and maybe co-develop something there.
Yeah, those sound powerful. I think actually combining the AI with the workflow process automation has some compelling value and would be an easy sale. And I know right now, AI is such a hot buzzword. It's ironic to me, and I think you guys will probably agree. It's hilarious that people think it's so new. It's been around for a long time. I mean, I trained a team offshore that was basically my replacement for a layoff on AI for a mobile platform. Hello, that was 7 years ago, and that was using AI. So it's been around a long time, but you need experts like Will and Justin to actually develop that in a way that's smart so that you're using it wisely. I think it'd be really interesting to combine some sort of offering that has AI with the workflow process automation, making their life easier, allowing them to stay in their zone of genius, which aligns to your vision of focus. But then having dashboards on the back end tracking all of the time saved and their KPIs, that would be like a masterful offering, and that would sell like hotcakes right now. So
I just wrote it down, so I got it. I wrote it down, so we're fine.
I mean, there is one other piece, and it's more of an expansion on what we're already doing. Cybersecurity is huge, and especially AEC, architects, engineers, construction. That entire industry is 10 to 30 years behind the rest of the world. They're low-hanging fruit. They're like the top 3 most hacked industry, most ransomed industry in the world. And the reason is there's just big dollars there. Not necessarily big profit dollars, but big dollars flying around. And so kind of expanding, educating there and making it easy. The biggest problem is they don't understand. And for them, it's like, it's either black or white, and they don't understand the gray areas. So just making it more easy. So it is more, I guess, white to them. So
yeah,
that's making it easy. for them.
I
And
see a future campaign of 50 Shades of Grey for that industry, and you like making it fun. Making it fun and explaining what you don't know about cybersecurity that should keep you up at night, and we will help you sleep easy at night. There's your marketing campaign for
I'm
your
about to say you're giving me
cybersecurity.
too much. This is too easy now. It's unbelievable.
All right. So again, we've talked about revenue, we've talked about peak performance and inspiration. This has been great. We're gonna wrap it up with 2 rapid fire questions that you can each respond to. All right. What is the best one piece of advice you would share with others today? Justin, you first.
Find your purpose and attack it every day with no holds bars.
Love it. Will.
learn thyself to become more aware.
Ooh, very
Oh,
Shakespearean. I like it. All right. And what is the legacy you wish to leave behind, Justin?
I want to be known as the person that gave enough inspiration to those to have the impact that trickles down for the next 2 millennium.
That is a lofty legacy. I love it. I can get behind that, and I feel your energy. All right, Will, what is the legacy you want to leave behind?
The guy that liked to help everyone else.
Oh,
I mean, reality is that's what my company is doing. Whether they like it or not, everyone's affected by technology, and I hate cyber criminals. I hate assholes like that. So guess what? I want to be the easy button for essentially not that.
Sheriff's in town.
I
That's
like
right.
it. Easy button for cybersecurity. We're locking down the crime. And for those of you that hate technology, these are your guys. They'll make it simple for you. This has been an amazing interview. I hope you can see how amazing Will and Justin are. They have the perfect partnership and blend in their business of visionary and operating and like implementing together. And you can see that they're building an amazing team. They have their heart in the right place, and they are obsessed with their customer experience. So, hey, if you guys are looking for an IT service team, you should check them out. To follow Will and Justin, I will have all of their links, including their website, all their social media assets, etc., in the show notes and on the YouTube link. And thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time to share with my audience today.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
the great
You're
questions.
amazing. You're
You're
fabulous.
awesome.
You're the star here. We're just the secondary.
No, we're all stars. We have to be here to support each other. So, for our listeners, I hope you took away a lot of wisdom today. There were a lot of nuggets in there, and we'll see you on our next episode. Thank you. Thank you for joining the show today. I hope you were inspired. More importantly, I hope you take action. If the show inspired you, I ask that you subscribe and share it with your network. Let's spread inspiration together today.